evening and welcome to Medicine for All Times. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Svenja and my spirit name is Twirling Mystical Dreamer. Medicine for All Times was birthed during the global pandemic as a means to bring an essence and a knowledge and healing to others. It has evolved into a beautiful, powerful platform of local and international speakers who are sharing incredible depth and wisdom that is so necessary in these times and in all times. So I welcome you all into the space. Thank you to those of you who are joining us live, and to those of you who are joining us in the recording that you'll be watching after this. Thank you for being part of the space. I'd like us all just to ground in and settle in. So let's just take a moment to close our eyes, or otherwise to look down on the floor, put distractions away for a moment, and just connect to your breath. Finding the beautiful pressure of your body weight on your sits bones, and uncross your legs and your feet. And allow your hips and your pelvis to be beautifully square and your shoulders to drop away from your ears. Taking a moment to just find yourself land in the space. Preparing your cells to receive and to listen to the beautiful, deep knowledge and wisdom that is going to be shared tonight. Opening up to things that you may have heard before and things that you may not, and allow it to land where it is meant to land. I'd like to just take a moment to connect to our energy allies and to open the space energetically. To the energies of air, the first and last thing that we do in life, breathing, the transporter of our words and how we portray ourselves to the world, the place of inspiration and illumination. We thank you for being with us tonight. To the energies of fire, the element of warmth and heat, the spark that brings community together, creator of movement and growth, we thank you for being with us tonight. To the energies of water, the element that we are mostly made up of, tears that wash our souls clean, the element that washes our earth, bringing balance and cleansing, we thank you for being with us tonight. To the energies of the stone people, holding memories from generations past and generations to come, the place of power and wisdom, examples to us of how to stand strong against all adversity. We thank you for being with us tonight. To the energies of the star beings, the above, the connection to universal consciousness, the reminder that we are not alone as we navigate this lifetime, we thank you for being with us tonight. To the energies of Pachamama, Mother Earth, our place of birth and rebirth, the reminder to dig our roots deep and to trust in the process. We thank you for being with us tonight. And to the energies of the center, this time and space and present moment, the connection to who we are, the connection to who we are in this moment, touching into the magic, we thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you to every person that is present, every person that is listening, every person that is holding space with us, and to all of the incredibly powerful and beautiful speakers that are bringing their wisdom and energy with tonight. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here. And as you take another deep breath, you're welcome to open your eyes and make yourself comfortable. We are in for some really, really beautiful deep work tonight. The topic for tonight's sharing is shadow work, and for me it is a particularly relevant topic. It's been a year of deep delving and shadow work for me personally, as I believe and know that it has been for many others as well. And I really, really look forward to listening to what the speakers have to bring to the party. So our first speaker that is up, Dr. Monet Viljoen. Her topic is contacting the shadow self. Sorry, contacting the shadow. What if life is actually a self-determining mythical stage show? Dr. Monet spent over a decade in the world of academia, where she obtained a doctorate in researching how childhood trauma and maltreatment and psychological illness manifest in the brain and the endocrine and immune systems. By combining the modalities of acceptance commitment therapy, internal family systems, yoga, Jungian psychology, and myth, Dr. Monet created the Life as Mythical Stage Show practice, whereby one's unconscious limiting beliefs are systematically rewritten to create one's reality from a place of love, awareness, and power. Thank you, Monet, for being here. It's such an honor and a privilege, and I really look forward to listening to your share.
Thank you so much, Svenja. It's an honor to be here, and it's a divine opportunity to share my medicine here. I am grateful beyond words can ever say. So I'm going to start off by asking, or actually just asking the rhetorical question as to, are we all familiar with this expression that as within, so without? I'm sure we can all say that we've heard this expression at least once before in our lives. And I'm also sure we can all agree that we don't have much control of our external environment. However, we can create our reality from the inside out, and we can do that by means of shadow work. So there is a clause to this phenomenon of creating one's reality from the inside out. And is that we both create and we co-create our reality, either consciously or unconsciously, within the framework or the boundaries of fate, using our free will. And astrologers can determine the broad strokes of our fate when they do our natal charts. And it's these very specific and unique personal attributes that are viewed by practically all mystical traditions to be the life lessons that we chose to experience before we even incarnated into this lifetime. And some call it karmic imprints. In the Vedas, they call it samskaras in Sanskrit. And based on Norse mythology, we are all part of this web of weird, where we partake in this weaving of fate and free will. So important to note, though, is that in some ways we have more free will than what we think we have. Quoting the world-renowned psychiatrist Carl Jung, until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives, and we will call it fate. And in other ways, we have less free will than what we think we have, in that when I am suggesting that we create our reality, I am not proposing that we take on the secrets approach in a sense that we exist within a vacuum. And if our lives are a bit crappy, it's all our fault because we created it. Or alternatively, that we can have or we can become anything in this world we ever want to. Instead, life is about relationships, and we are relating to all things all the time. And so everything is interconnected within the whole. And our capacity to create our reality depends on our ability to respond to life's myriad of choices on a daily basis. Where the intersection then between fate and free will is the present moment. And the power lies in slowing down and becoming present to what is. So if I can just use an analogy of this using our experience of music. So instead of saying, oh my word, this music that is currently playing is awful, this COVID music, for example, and I'm just going to try and close my ear off to it and entertain some form of escapism or avoidance behavior, I can say, okay, this is the music that's currently playing, and I choose to dance to it in this particular kind of way. And I know it's easier said than done, but it becomes easier the more shadow work we do, and the more we can just view life to be this one big stage show where we ourselves can choose and create the choreography or the narrative to our stage performance using the props available to us provided by fate. So shadow work is a term which Carl Jung coined, and he devoted his life to this concept of shadow work and extensively explored it. And so this work is based on sound analytical depth psychology. So rest assured. And we do shadow work each and every single time that we choose to not react or to act out when we have been triggered by another person. So if our buttons have been pushed, so to speak, or we've been triggered by a relationship or an event or a situation, but we go within and we make that metaphorical descent into our own underworld, which is a symbolic representation of the unconscious mind. And we find the hidden treasure there, which are both healthy and unhealthy aspects of the psyche. And then we don't just stay in the underworld forever. We make that ascent back up again to the conscious mind so that we can integrate what we have discovered with our conscious mind. And the unconscious mind then is the shadow forms part of the unconscious mind, and it's a very big proportion of the psyche. It's 90% of the psyche, and it consists out of processes which occur automatically. So these can be thoughts, repressed feelings and memories, everything we feel ashamed of, our perversions, our fears, and even also our interests and our motivations, our desires, and even a form of intuition also resides in the unconscious mind. It also includes everything that we have locked away for whatever reason, especially in childhood or during childhood when we started molding ourselves to what our family and the culture and the society dictated. It also includes all of our karmic imprints, whether it be from this lifetime, previous lives, if that is part of your worldview, and also transgenerational trauma. The problem is that every part we disown within ourselves turns against us, ultimately influencing our behavior and our thought patterns in destructive ways. So if you have been triggered by something or somebody outside of yourself with a disproportionate reaction, it is most likely a form of projection stemming from the contents of your unconscious mind. The problem with the unconscious mind is that it is unconscious, right? So, and we cannot tap the unconscious mind using reasoning, because the language of the unconscious mind is that of symbolism. So we can use the people and the events and the circumstances in our lives to mirror our shadow to us. And so we can make unconscious content conscious by using triggers, as I've mentioned before, and also dream analyses and the interpretation of myth and fairy tale, and identifying with gods and goddess archetypes. So let's just stand still for a moment to put a definition to this very elusive concept of an archetype. So Jung defined an archetype to be an unconscious, inherited pattern of thought or behavior. It can also be a symbol or a prototype image which holds the same meaning across all cultures. And so an archetype is universally present in individual psyches. And so many parallels run between the mythology, the fairy tales, spiritual scriptures, and gods and goddess archetypes are, for example, Greek, Roman, Vedic, Egyptian, even African origin. And this is because an individual's unconscious mind is connected to the collective unconscious, which is somewhat like the Akashic records. So the collective unconscious then is also inherited, and it contains the symbolic material of an entire species. And this is why archetypes are universal, and why each and every one of us can identify with these god and goddess archetypes, whether it be from different cultures, and whether we are not from the same culture, it doesn't matter. We can identify with these archetypes as they become personified inner forces, which shape our behavior and influence our emotions. So, in summary, our unconscious mind creates both our inner and our outer reality. And we can recreate our inner reality by rewiring those dysfunctional, outdated, conditioned neural pathways in the brain and body by means of shadow work. And as a happy byproduct, our outer reality will follow suit. It is quite an undertaking, though. It is a hero or heroine's journey into the underworld, and for good reason, because whatever we could not deal with at the time was shoved into the underworld. And shadow work then requires a process of sitting with those uncomfortable and somewhat painful thoughts and feelings when we have been triggered. So I invite you then, the next time that you've been triggered, to recognize that you are at a choice point. Are you going to feed the fear wolf and repeat that same pattern of dysfunctional thought or behavior? Or are you going to feed the love wolf, where your quest is to journey into the underworld for the sake of love? Because as cliched as this may sound, love really does make the world go around, and the answer to everything is always love. So, yeah, if you can just become as mindful as you possibly can, each and every single time when you have been triggered, and you choose that love wolf, know that you are in service of something way bigger than yourself. So I would love to go into a practice today where we can actually deal a little bit with our unconscious mind. And we're going to work with a story or a myth of Psyche and Eros. It's a Greek story. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background and try and keep it short. So the story goes as follows. Psyche is a pregnant mortal who wishes to be reconciled with her husband, Eros, who abandoned her. So I'm not going to go into details about that. But Eros also happens to be Aphrodite's son. He is god of love. And Psyche had the misfortune to be so beautiful that she was called the second Aphrodite by mortal men. And as you know, Aphrodite is the goddess of love and beauty. So Psyche received the reverence and the awe that was due to the goddess, which then highly offended Aphrodite. And so Psyche knew that she had to approach an angry Aphrodite if she ever is to be reconciled with her husband. But because she loves him very much, she presented herself to the goddess Aphrodite, who then gave her 4 tasks to complete, and it's 4 very impossible tasks. We're only going to be focusing on one today, which is the task of learning to say no. And it goes as follows. Aphrodite ordered Psyche to descend into the underworld with a small box of that she needs to fill with beauty ointment from Persephone, queen of the underworld. And of course, Psyche equates this task with death, because she is under the impression that nobody ever returns from the underworld. And to make matters even worse, Aphrodite told her that she will encounter these 3 pathetic, needy beings, and they will ask for her help. And 3 times she will have to say no, ignoring their pleas, and just continue on. Because if she doesn't, then she'll be trapped in the underworld forever. Fortunately, a far-seeing, very tall tower came to her aid. So as with these myths, the tower can actually speak, and he gave her advice as to which forms these distracting entities will take on, so that when she encounters them, she can actually recognize them. He also gave her advice to do step by step what she can do in those circumstances when she encounters those distracting entities. So let's just put this little bit of story in the context of our everyday living, so we can interpret this myth in everyday language. Starting with Aphrodite. So Aphrodite represents that transformative agent in the psyche that provides the tasks through which our psyche grows. And Psyche, whose name is no coincidence, represents our psyche, or our soul, or the feminine aspect to our personality, which, by the way, is not gender-based. Both men and women have this feminine aspect. And in Jungian psychology, we call this the anima. And she is a woman who puts relationships first, so she acts emotionally to others. She's also a lover, she's a wife, and she's now a pregnant mother. So she depends on Eros, her husband, being there for her. So when he left her or abandoned her, this situation then can represent to us a scenario where either we've lost a physical partner, like a lover or a wife or husband, in a form of betrayal, death, or even or divorce. Excuse me. Or it can represent a situation where we found ourselves in a codependent relationship where we have lost our own sense of sovereignty. And those 4 tasks then represent capabilities that we must acquire under very, very challenging conditions, proving our dedication and our competency. And the process of actually acquiring these capabilities is equated with the masculine side to our personality, which is also called the animus. So at the end of the myth, Psyche and Eros, fast forward, they are reconciled, and their marriage is honored. And in fact, Psyche is actually turned from a mortal woman to a goddess. And important to note is that after proving her determination and her love for Eros, she doesn't go riding off into the sunset by herself like the archetypal cowboy hero. The journey ends at the union of opposites, which is this sacred inner psychological marriage of the feminine and the masculine principles inside of ourselves. So turning now to the task of learning to say no. As I've mentioned before, the unconscious mind is represented by the underworld, to which we must descend to find those hidden core beliefs that are also limiting. And when we say no, it's not as saying no to our difficult thoughts and feelings. It's saying no to any insecurity or addiction or compulsion, or even a person or a situation or event that could possibly distract us from our goal. In other words, our quest for love. So it is a task of exercising choice and of setting boundaries. Because the minute we set that boundary, we reclaim that energy that would have been lost or drained in the process of going along repeating that same dysfunctional thought or behavior pattern. Because if we just reenact those same patterns, we run the risk of being trapped in the underworld forever. So there's no integration with the conscious mind. And so the tower comes, the conscious mind, providing the visuals of these distracting entities. So this we're going to do in a moment, where we actually identify a trigger scenario that keeps on coming up for us. So it provides us with the visuals of this distraction in life. And then the tower also provides us with the tools that we can implement when we have been triggered. And we're going to be going into that in a moment as well. So getting to the actual task. For future reference, even when you've been triggered and you are in the company of other people, just see if you can politely excuse yourself and go to a place where you can be alone. So you can just have 5 minutes to quickly implement what I am going to run you through just now. Or if that's not available, just bank the trigger along with the feeling tone and all those uncomfortable sensations, so that you can get back to that memory again when you are alone and apply the steps. So I would like for you now to just take a moment to identify a trigger scenario in your life that keeps on coming up for you. So it's recurring, and it's also a trigger that you react to with a disproportionate response. In other words, it's an overreaction. For example, if you get angry when somebody has violated your boundaries, that is perfectly normal and actually even necessary. So that's not a trigger. A trigger is something like, I'm just going to give an example. Say your partner is on his or her phone and you're seeing that and it triggers you immensely, even though you actually know that he is or she is just doing some admin on the phone, and it's not like he's always on his phone. It just triggers you for some reason. And I encourage you to actually use a trigger that involves somebody you have an intimate relationship with, as these kind of relationships really push us to face our childhood wounds. Yeah, so let's just take a minute or two to think about a trigger. If you cannot think of anything right now, that's perfectly fine. You can always come back to this practice when you have actually thought about it sufficiently. And just before we get into it, I'm just going to demonstrate that we'll be using our arms and our hands in this kind of gesture when we say no. And then we're also going to pull back energy that wants to drain from our energy field by literally using our hands and pouring it over ourselves, and then clasping our hands together. Very simple movements, very effective. So I invite you now to find a comfortable seat, closing your eyes. And bring to mind that trigger scenario. Seeing it in your mind's eye, playing out, or however it comes to you in this moment. Along with all those difficult thoughts and feelings, sensations in the body. So you're making that descent now into the underworld, into the realm of mythos, magic, and what is hidden. And we're going to follow the advice now from the tower by saying no. Saying no with an arms out gesture. No. No more dysfunctional behavior or thought. I'm not going to be trapped in this underworld forever. And then take that energy that wants to follow the path of least resistance by wanting to reenact those dysfunctional behavioral patterns and pour it over yourself, reclaiming your beautiful essence. And press your feet firmly into the floor, sit forward in your chair, and clasp your hands firmly together. Noticing that along with having this very difficult thought or feeling, you have a body, you have a head, you have a back, a pelvis, you have legs and feet. Notice 3 things that you can hear around you in your room. Gently opening your eyes, noticing 5 things you can see around you in the room. Well done. You have just dropped anchor. You have said no to those distracting entities of the underworld, and you are free. In a very short nutshell, that was practice 1 out of 6 of my shadow work session course. And I just want to briefly outline the other sessions so you have an idea of what we're actually getting to in the end. So session 2, we work with the Psyche's task of filling the crystal flask, where we just notice a name, that limiting belief that's actually causing you to be triggered in the first place. And then we also start working with the stage metaphor by visualizing yourself on that stage with your trigger scenario, with that person being on the stage, and then working with the different parts that arise inside your psyche, like the protectors and the exiled children and the self with the capital S, the observing self that can just witness what's going on that stage. And then in session 3, we work with the task of acquiring golden fleece, where we turn to the body, those bodily sensations and feeling tones to give us the answers. And I also then teach practices to soothe your nervous system, trauma release exercises, everything to bring your nervous system back into homeostasis when you have been triggered. And in session 4, I administer a questionnaire, and this is specifically for women. No offense to men, I just haven't done one for men yet, to ascertain which archetypes, Greek goddess archetypes, are dominant in your particular psyche, along with their shadow qualities. And then we pick one, which is an antidote, which is a match to your antidote belief. So you have your limiting belief and your antidote belief, and then we have this archetype that is actually resembling your antidote belief, which we will then embody in the final session. And in session 5, we work with another myth called Who Gets the Golden Apple, by just coming to know all these archetypes and parts in your personality, also the free child or the inner child, and their respective needs, which need to be tended to. And finally, in section 6, we worked with the task of sorting the seeds. So it is essentially where we rewrite the limiting belief on a neurological level by working with the polar opposite feeling tones of your limiting belief and your antidote belief. And then we invoke that antidote goddess on the stage and work with a particular practice to actually embody her essence, to rewrite your whole script on the stage. So that was in a very short nutshell. I don't know if it made sense because you actually have to experience it for yourself. But I am, again, very honored to be here and very, very grateful for all of you listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Monet. Gosh, that was really beautiful and rich, and I loved the analogy and the reminder of the fear wolf and the love wolf. I think that even though sometimes we hear things or we read things, they don't always land when they're meant to. So that was just a beautiful reminder. And your practice, it's a very physical sensation, and I love the embodiment of it. I believe that when we bring in embodiment practices, it really helps it land on a deep cellular level. So thank you for your mythological, beautiful journey that you took us on, and the correlation to our lives, and the rest of your course sounds absolutely amazing. And thank you for being in the space, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. It's such a gift to have you here. Thank you. Next up, we have Janine Hayward. Janine is our beautiful music maker. Janine offers sacred sound sessions, which include light language, star songs, mantras, and overtone singing to bless and cleanse the aura. Janine, thank you so much for bringing your musical magic into our space tonight.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Svenja. It's really, really beautiful to hear the Greek myths that were coming in. And similarly, in my own work with my own shadow, I also connected with some Greek goddesses. So I was finding it fascinating to see how the correlations were there. So the first song I'm going to play is for Persephone, and she's goddess of the underworld. She's a young lady who ends up getting seduced by this beautiful narcissus flower and taken down to Hades and kind of kidnapped by Hades in the underworld. And then eventually Demeter, her mother, is looking for her everywhere, freaks out completely and stops providing any kind of sustenance to the earth. So after much moaning and complaining, all the humans are like, help her to the gods. And eventually Persephone is brought back up. But the thing is that she's eaten some pomegranate. Some people say 3 seeds, some people say 6. But she ends up needing to spend some time in the underworld and descending into the underworld of Hades. And sometimes she can come up to the above ground and be there with her mother and rejoice in the spring of that energy. So yeah, that descent into the darkness and then coming back into the light. And I wrote the song at a time when I was just at the beginning of going into that rabbit hole. So yeah, this one's called Persephone. It became a very good friend. Persephone, what do you want with me? Do you love my company this much? Or are you lonely here, stuck in Hades' lair? Is that why you're pining for my touch? Is there something we need to do together? Are you ready yet for the autumn weather? Persephone, will you please set me free? Or at least lend me to one of your friends? Am I your prisoner? Or something keeps me here? Though your love, it drives me around the bend. Is there anything we need to do together? Are you ready now, prepared for winter weather? You and me, we must have a goal. Oh, I'm crawling my way out of that hole. Please enlighten me, show me what I can't see, and guide me through this darkness, Stephanie. Well, is there one thing we need to do together? Are you ready now for the springtime weather? Stephanie, come whisper here to me all the secrets of the night. Was that narcissist worth the hell and bliss? Is there some way, a way to heal my fright? Or is this something that we could do together? Would you dream with me of the summer weather? Stephanie, she gave my life to me. Yeah, she kept it hidden in some singing bowl. To the realms of time, through darkness sweet, sublime, she brings the true light to my chosen goal. And I am ready now for all my seasons changing. And I'm ready now for all my rearranging. Thank God it's for you, dear Stephanie. Thank God it's for you, sweet Stephanie. Thank God it's for you, dark Stephanie. Thank God it's for you, Queen Stephanie. So yeah, Stephanie became very good friends. And then this song came from very long ago, it's like the previous, when, you know, way back when you're like 20 and realize there's stuff that needs sorting. And it's taken this long for this one to come, so. My shadow comes to me in all its forms, and I welcome it so I can be reborn. And I see its suspicion, its hate and scorn, its worry, victimhood, another thorn. I burn my feet on hell's hot sand, and I've seen the fire shining from my hands, and I remove the shackles and the binding bands of past life cords and ancestral plans. I've inhaled the smoke of 1,000 fires, and I've done strange things to feel inspired, and I lost my breath, and I felt so tired, and all this pain's left me weak and wired. And I walked to the mountain where the caves begin, and I judged myself, and I believed in sin, and I worked myself till my aura was thin. But everything that's without is within. I've drowned in the waters of the sea of grief, and I've tried many things just to find some relief. Well, time is a cannibal, yet time is a thief, and only Kairos time brings relief. And I walk with my shadow and my light hand in hand, fulfill their needs as best I can, and I bridge the two with the rainbow band. I am neither woman nor man. I've seen the colors that surround all things, and I felt the power of the bubbling spring, and I trust the earth and the fire and the wind to keep me strong. And the girl, my wing, na 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 So there's a little two something for our beginning. We'll sing another two more later. Thank you so much for letting me bring you my insides out. And yeah, just wishing you all the best with your travels into the shadow.
Thank you so much, Janine. Gosh, your songs, the words, so beautiful and so powerful and so relevant to the story that's being told today, the weaving of these beautiful stories. Thank you for your musical magic. That was lovely. Next up, we have an incredible speaker, Tristan De Graaf. He's going to be speaking about matrix sovereignty through community and self-awareness. Tristan has been living debt-free and off-grid for 10 years, working with the seasons, earth and sky, practicing permaculture and various building techniques, living near Swellendam. His life's work is in assisting others to exit the rat race and manifest their wildest dreams, to find the doorway out of the matrix, find true inner freedom by creating external freedoms, and practical solutions and remaining connected with nature. Thank you, Tristan. Such an honor to have you in the space this evening, and I really look forward to listening to your share.
Thank you very much, Svenja. Good evening. Thank you very much for your introduction. I did explain a little bit about me there up front, which is nice. And yes, so I've really landed in this position today because exiting the matrix and the system that we're finding it all very hard so much to live along with now is actually really a process, in my experience, of becoming free and light within oneself. And what I mean by that is, I think we all have a deep down yearning for some kind of nature-filled, responsibility-free life in some form or some sort of way. But really, the point here is that shadow work comes through strongly when looking to find freedom. So I'm here today just to share my experience, as let's say ungraceful as it may have been from the start. I wish I had a lot of money to help me on my journey, but I found that really it had nothing to do with that. It actually had a whole lot to do with really my belief, and the rest really came flowing. So it's quite a large point and subject, as Svenja introduced. It's really hard to find the right footing in just sharing a door out of the matrix, because it's going to be unique for everyone's situation and scenario. But I just wanted to share a couple of big things that I found that I believe a lot of us are all in the same boat with, that we can perhaps make a move on. But before I get into some of the pitfalls, some of the top tips, I really just wanted to say that I'm honored to be a part of this amazing, graceful spirit with humanity. And I believe that a big shift is on its way and the timeline has changed. So of course we understand we're in a bit of a collapsing system at the moment. In some way or some form, there's something changing, and I'm going to bring some practical things to the table here, which do tie very much into the galactic and worldly shadow. So, you know, we're going to have to face the fact that we're entering into a new timeline, a new way of operating, you know, with money, trading. We're in for a nice new, could be a bit of a rough ride for most, but I think it's going to be quite what we've all been calling in. Unfortunately, like anything, we have to go through a bit of growing pains to actually grow. So what I'm going to say is, a lot of people, for example, have made decisions to get closer to nature and work with the earth and the sky and connect with the elements, grow food, become self-sustainable. But a lot of people are very confused on how to make the step. And I can tell you, it's all been designed that way so that everyone is very confused. Of course, you all know that I'm not telling you guys anything new, except what I would like to do is bring a couple of things to your attention, which even the most enlightened of my friends are still all trapped in. Your cell phones, guys. Your cell phones are taking our attention, and your attention is stealing our attention so much so that it's really making it impossible for us to actually have clear thought patterns to make a whole bunch of decisions that actually serve us and not everyone else and everything else and all the noise that keeps coming at us. So in my experience, what I found works for me is I have two phones. I have a very simple Nokia 3310. It doesn't steal my attention. I don't get internet signals beaming into my pocket. I don't have lots of noise and distraction on me the whole day. What I do have, sorry, this is connected, is my tablet. And this I use for WhatsApp or internet at various times in the day. And I can honestly say, besides the frequency that I'm saving, homing in on me, I save my attention so much. And this has been working a lot for me. And I can honestly say this really works. Now, a lot of you guys might be wondering, well, how can you have two phones? Well, I have one number and I get everything sent on WhatsApp to my other SIM card. It can be done in any cell phone shop. And you can walk around with a simple phone that you can even use while you're driving if you need to, and text because it doesn't have a touch screen. So that's just one little example of taking back our attention, guys. But the other one, and maybe a bit more important, and I'm spending a bit of time here, because we can't think about back engineering our dream and finding a focused way forward if we have all this noise. And relationships, toxic relationships with friends that really don't serve you, you know, all sorts of family relationships even could be holding us back and actually putting fear into us, kind of creating a bit of a block from us moving forward. Could call it black magic, or just words that give us a little bit less faith in our dream and plans. I speak from experience. A lot of my friends told me what I was doing is completely crazy. I'd move out into the country and become a bit of a hermit or be alone. And I can tell you, it's quite the opposite. And I've come to a place of still needing an income, but I am debt free. And I share this with you from such a wonderful, happy place, because when I wake up in the morning, I don't worry about whether I need water, whether I need electricity. I don't worry about a roof over my head. I spent a year building a house from a forest. That's not what I'm living in now, but I've been through the ropes. And building your home is fun and rewarding. And that feeling of being in that space that is held by you, where you are entirely responsible for your own power production, filtrate, you know, cleaning your water, making sure that your waste is taken care of. Well, that's really where the freedom is, right there. And I would like to share, I'd like to admit something here. About 12 years ago, I learned something quite disturbing about what I found our shadow government cabal may or may not be doing to us. These there were conspiracy theories. A lot of them were true. A lot of them have come true today. But it did set me off in a footing of, I wanted to be in nature, but I was a little bit stressed to get things done because I wasn't sure how much time we may have as, in this type of scenario. So I came from a little bit of a place of worry. I wouldn't say fear, but I guess we could put it into fear. And I can honestly say that when we make decisions to change our lives out of fear or discomfort, I can tell you that most likely it's going to create drama and confusion. It's most likely going to cost one a lot of money, and it more than likely is actually just going to waste a lot of time. And right now, guys, we don't have a lot of time. And I say it like that. I don't think we have a lot of time to become a self-sustaining, close-knit community, problem-free. I think we have to move it up if we are to form communities that are not caught by this tidal wave of economic destruction, which is on its pathway towards us. So I know it all seems a little heavy, but you know, I've really grown quite close to the earth and the sky, and this mountain where I live has proved that the earth can sustain us. And just being connected with our mother and source is really the first and primary focus for us to succeed in our dream. And so where I'm at with this is just to share. There's a couple of techniques I would love for you to just sit with, maybe after this this chat, and perhaps write down how to back engineer your dream. Maybe a 3-year plan. I did mention this before in a last talk, but it's important to remember what our needs are, and then to tie that into our back engineered dream, because we need water, we need food, we need shelter, we need electricity, and we need an outside income. Of course, we need other things, but these are the primary focuses. And if we can eliminate these things, food is always a tricky one, but if we can eliminate these things mostly, it means our need for a higher level of income comes down, and all of a sudden our cup can stay full because we don't have these drains and expenses every day and month. So I'm going to share with you, I've been to a beautiful place overseas called the Golden City. It's in Indonesia. It's a wonderful concept of a golden city, that which we are all longing and wishing to be a part of, a sustainable, innovative, loving, caring, cherishing community with abundance and giving, and you name it. This is the model that a bunch of people have started in a little island off of Bali called Sumbawa. I'm sharing this with you because I believe the concept of it, you can go online, look it up. The concept of it is really a great model for what we can all be working towards within a community. As we talk about forming community, working in community, I think if there is one place you can go online and look for a model. There is that, and there's also a very great initiative going on in South Africa called the Rising Collective. Also check that out online. It's also all innovative community work. And right now we need guys to team up, collaborate. This is our moment, guys. So I'm speaking to everyone out there who ever had the dream of becoming free and sustainable. I'm telling you, it can be done. I'm telling you, the government systems, the red tape to go through council, to get properties legally passed in community is impossible. There is no way the governments will ever allow you to turn your property into an off-grid sustainable community. I know that because of resort zoning. I know that you have to be completely loaded, completely millionaire if you ever want to start an off-grid community, because the way that governments have set it up, it's actually quite unbelievably clever. They just make it almost impossible. And I know that from going to at least 5 or 6 different communities and speaking to many community member who is trying to get something going and is just coming up against resistance after resistance after resistance. So we're all at the point where we're wondering, well, how do we get together and team up and start a community and work together? Because we're all so divided. We all need to line things up, which seems to be quite impossible. But there's really only 3 things we can do when we want to join community, from what I've discovered anyways. I might be wrong. We can buy in groups, find some friends, find people that we get along with, decide to make small communities and try to get that together, whether it's 2 to 50 different people. That's one way. Of course, it comes with its own set of problems, and I'm not going to go into it, but you'll see what I mean in a moment. The other way is to go in on your own, of course, buy privately. A lot less hassle. You can move forward. You don't need to line things up with a lot of people. A lot less time wasted. Probably a bit more joyful. And I can say that unless you all have the same amount of money, probably cause a lot less conflict in your relationships with your friends. It can be very hard to line things up with your best friends. So the other one is to buy close to each other privately. And I would say that to start a community now, in this day and age, I would say is a very hard task with all the confusion and lack of resources, just the freedom of money with everyone. So I think that's quite difficult. I do, however, believe that it's possible to look at maybe buying land within a team of 1 or 2 people, maybe 3 or 4, and then from there, that overseeing group can then bring in more people, but you always have a sort of spokespeople for the community. You have some team leaders, because like everyone knows, you can't get 20 people into a meeting and hope to come out with a solution. It ain't going to happen. You need to reduce things down. You need to get spokespeople for different aspects or areas of the community who basically can bring that intention forward right to the top. So a very nice point that I would love to bring to you guys here that I haven't seen before at all, which I would like to see, and I think maybe a very big part of shadow work here, is roundtable decision making. Now, we all know it's very hard to start something and then hand it over to somebody else and let them make all the decisions while you sit in the background and watch your baby run in the foreground. Because there are many people who've had lots of money, who've started a community. They call themselves the benevolent rulers, because someone has to pay for everything. But no one likes the idea that one person's in control of everything either. So here is the moment that everyone gets stuck at, and it's really quite a complex matter. But I do believe that right now the way that it can be done is for the community leaders to face their very own shadows. It's the elders, it's the people who have got the resources, the people who have actually found that they have taken their dream so far and they need more help. They can't run it on their own. It's those people that need to almost step back from their dream, their egos, their investment, their baby, if you will, and come to a place of going, you know, this is where it always fails, because I can't let this run in a completely round table decision-making way. Otherwise I lose control. And I tell you, it's an age-old story, because we all want it, but it's really hard to get there without everyone being on board. And so I'm gonna just digress a little bit and just bring it back to the present, and just say that, all right, a lot of people would like to find themselves in a slightly better scenario than they are in today, just with reliance on government, or being perhaps in a bit of a position if the economy collapses or the power goes out, or something like that. So you don't need to own land to become a little bit more sovereign and free. In fact, there's a lot of people who own way too much land and they wish they would have people come and help them there. So it's not all about saving the money or earning the money for the land to make it out and get free, because you will find the land if you want to be free. It's just in the belief. But back to my point. So there's a couple of streamlined things that I believe could really put you in a position of power if you ever had to make a very fast decision on, you know, what to do. Plan for a bit of movement, guys, in these times. You know, you may not have to do anything, but, you know, these lockdowns, there's things to consider. So plan for a bit of movement. And when I mean that, plan for being able to take important or valuable things that can actually help you in your survival, things that make sense and that have been thought about. Because when you're in a bit of a panic or a little bit stressed, you know, you don't think clearly. So think about it a bit. And I mean things like, you know, cooking, being able to cook on fire, for example. It seems like an easy thing, but if you don't have all the apparatus and you just get in your car and go out to a place, try cooking meals for long periods of time. It becomes a bit of a reality shock when you realize you don't have a braai grid or a water container or a tent, or even perhaps a power bank for your cell phone because you have nowhere to charge your devices. Just be a little more vigilant. You know, you might not be able to take your 10 pairs of shoes, but you might have one pair that's going to serve you all around. You might have a jacket that's going to kind of be the one that's going to serve you, rather than you can't make the decisions with the 6 jackets because they're all for different temperatures. And think about it. There are things we can do right now, guys, that can empower us to be free from the decision of others. Because I feel we're very much at the whim of other people's choices and decisions right now. And I'm actually a bit sick and tired of it, to be honest. There are people calling the shots, and we're all getting affected down here. So this is about taking the power back into our hands and basically, like Monet says, no. This is where we take our sovereignty back and say, we're going to plan for our future. We're going to grow our food. We're going to harvest our electricity. And we're going to plan for a great future with our kids, because we don't like what you're teaching them in the schools either. So I might be barking up the wrong tree at the moment, but it's just such an amazing thing to also remember that this is all to do with our shadow selves. Everything that we are experiencing in the world right now is part and parcel of ourselves, of course. And I really believe that at this point, we should be working together to become self-sustainable. More so than ever before, guys. The money is not important. There's a brand new economy on its way. It doesn't rely on gold, and it definitely doesn't rely on a bunch of fraudsters behind closed doors telling us how it is. So my guidance has brought me to just working with people who are maybe a little bit confused or not quite sure how to spend the resources, because I have been for the last 12 years in a position where people arrive and have a chat with me and say, Tristan, you know, I've got R1 million to my name. I've been working for 15 years and I really would like to get off the grid, but I don't have enough to just be frivolous about my route. I'm going to run out eventually. What do you think would be the best way to go about prioritizing my resources? And that is why I've said to you a moment ago, land, of course, is the very first thing that can set us free. But if it doesn't have water, it isn't going to set you free. So it's not that important, the land, that will come. So that's why I just come back to the point of please, guys, be a little more vigilant and ready in case we have a second lockdown. This is all a spiritual practice, and becoming sovereign and free is actually arriving at a feeling. It's a feeling. The freedom feeling is something you can take with when you die. You can't take your farm with you when you die. So the freedom is very much in facing the shadow and manifesting that which you desire. And if you desire freedom, then the first thing we have to do is unentangle ourselves. And I've been spending more than 10 years unentangling myself from the system in every which way possible, from contracts to agreements, relationships, and even warranties. In my business, I give warranties for all my work. And that also means I can't bugger off overseas. If I can't go away for long periods of time, I have no support for my clients, my customers. So I'm also trying to come to the end of that, so I'm even more free. All these things are energetic drains. So guys, I would like to come to a place of, let's get rid of the energetic drains. That includes relationships. Remember that your dream is not going to be supported by the law and the government. It isn't. You're going to have to be a pirate, guys. This is pirate work. We're going to have to navigate this ourselves. This is why we're here. There is no one leading the way. We are at the edge of the cliff. There is no route before us at the moment. We are pioneering. So, all that said, the wise man said, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. I can't wait to see all of you guys on the other side. It definitely can be done. I've got a home fire burning in my heart for you guys. The long winter's over, guys. Come on home. It's happening, and I love all of you, sending all the best on your journey, and remember to become valuable. Become valuable in your community, guys. We're going to need to trade, exchange. We're going to have to offer and gift. Try plan life without money. It's going to, even though I'm not saying that's the case, just think like that, because that's how it's going to happen. Love you, brothers and sisters. Can't wait to move forward with you guys even more. Thanks, guys. That's me for the night.
Thank you, Tristan, so much. Gosh, there's so much that you covered that I want to speak into. I'm going to have to hone it in a little bit. I really loved your concept of identifying the back engineered dream and identifying what it is that our basic needs are. It's a really good reminder, especially with the society of abundance that we live in, you know, having and acquiring more and more stuff in our lives. Yeah, so that was a really beautiful reminder, and I will definitely be researching the Golden City and the Rising Collective. They sound like really beautiful communities and initiatives, and thank you for bringing in the aspect of I believe that the whole concept of us moving out of the comfort of what we believe our current home situation is and into an off-grid system, as much as it might be a dream or desire, we are definitely facing our shadows by moving into that. We'll be coming up with a lot of resistance, but I can definitely see the value in us moving into sustainable communities and collectively working together. Thank you. Thank you so very much for all your beautiful information and your beautiful sharing.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Janine with her beautiful musical magic. Thank you, Janine.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks, Tristan. I really don't understand anything about government, so I do my best to work with self-governance because it's the only thing I can do. And then also realizing I'm the attraction point. I found it really interesting, your title, Getting Out of the Matrix. I work with matrix re-imprinting to help myself kind of dive into this unconscious and the shadows. And what came for me as a resource was actually Lilith. And Lilith is one of these female deities that is very scorned. People treat her as though she's a demonic force and big and bad. But having connected with Lilith within the realms of my own inner heart and matrix imprinting. So biblically, you know, she was the woman who was equal to Adam, made from the mud, same like he was. And Adam was wanting to get on top and rape like like things happen, and she was like, it's equals or I'm out of here. And so there wasn't equality in that thing, and so she left and went off actually with the angel of death. And so in some cults, she's seen as a protection for women during childbirth, and she's said to eat babies. What I've come to understand is she actually digests and eats the astral body, so the feeling body, when beings are between the worlds, helping them to move on so they can actually leave the pain of this realm and move on to the next. So she's become a huge resource for me with regards to connecting with sacred sensuality. And she's really helped me with my fear of the dark, because diving into her darkness was just realizing that there's only love. There's only love. So this is a little song for Lilith, who's my antidote for my Persephone. Lilith, Lilith in the thread of night. That's where you found me. Lilith, Lilith in my darkest night. You wrapped your arms around me, and you helped me face my pain. I will never be the same. Lilith, Lilith with your owl dark eyes, you see to the heart of me. Lilith, Lilith, you accept no lies. You own every part of me, and you've broken all the chains, and you left me rearranged. Lilith, Lilith, what they said of you, well, their lies confound me. Lilith, Lilith, yeah, your heart is true, and your tenderness surrounds me. For your darkness found was light, beyond blindness found my sight. Lilith, Lilith, we enter here at the edge of the Venus sphere. Your Lilith, love beyond all fear, in a space beyond pain or tears, all the beings between the worlds, all the babies, boys and girls. Lilith, Lilith, please dissolve our pain, till only faith remains. Lilith, Lilith, take away the stains, all the right and the wrong refrain, till the oneness is everything, and return to us our wings. Lilith, Lilith, may I fly so free in sacred sensuality. Lilith, Lilith, may I die and be again reborn as me, beyond the judgments of the world. May my true self now unfurl. Lilith, Lilith, you hold the key to sacred liberty. Lilith, Lilith, in equality, all life the same as me. Take away that karmic sting, till I fly where starlight sings. Lilith, Lilith, you refuse to stay in the domination way. Lilith, Lilith, won't you come and play in the place where the angels say you are eternal, you are the light, beyond mother, child, or wife. Lilith, Lilith, may I fly so free, like the owl in the night I see. Lilith, Lilith, may I melt like snow, so that into the bliss I go, into the wild dark everything, into the sacred shimmering. Lilith, Lilith, I now own my form, again is myself reborn. Lilith, Lilith, may I mend what's torn, and regrow the shaved and shorn, be a light upon the earth, and show the darkness has true worth. Lilith, Lilith, I now breathe and know that I live in the cosmic flow. Lilith, Lilith, I am brave, I know. In my heart I feel the glow of the gold and silver shine of the universe alive. Yeah, my songs unfortunately get a bit epically long, so well done if you managed with all of that. And one last little one in. So essentially when we've faced our shadow and gone in there and found the treasure, you know, it's a bit like training our dragon. Once we go in and be with the dragon, it brings us a gift. And so this was a gift I received from the embryo me that had suffered some trauma, which I won't go into. But yeah, when she reconnected with me and I reconnected with her and gave her the resources she needed, this was a little something that she sent for me as resources for the way forward. And essentially, all we need to do is to be who we are, and everything is going to work out fine. We know and perceive and be and receive much more than we can ever possibly imagine. Yeah. I am the one who sees through illusion. I am the one who cuts all confusion. I am the love and courage infusion. I am the one who's living and cruising. Yeah. I am the one whose darkness is golden. I am the wisdom newborn and golden. I am the fire, the hot and the smoldering. I am the joy that your heart is holding. Yeah. Yeah. And if you would come with me, baby, you could be so free, oh yeah. Yeah. I am the past and future that guides you. I am the present here to inspire you. I am the elements here inside you. I am the bridge of all realms aligned fear not the shadow is your friend. Good to have someone who can lead you in and lead you out. Going in alone can sometimes be dicey, but with all my love to intrepid adventurers who are willing to face ourselves and love all aspects of who we are. Thank you.
Gosh, thank you so much, Janine. Gosh, I love your storytelling that you bring into and you weave with your music magic. It just brings it all together and makes so much sense. Thank you so very much for that beautiful sharing and the gift for our soul. Thank you. Right. Thank you again to all of those of you that are listening and being with us in the space. We have got one last speaker coming up, and that is Kent Steencamp. His topic is the shadow self identification and transfiguration. In 2017, Kent went through a spiritual expansion that led him to train as a traditional healer. Along the way of self-discovery, he found our traumas that lead to our hurts and shadow self that play a huge part in our disease manifestation, dis-ease manifestation. It has become a large part of his approach to find what needs to change in our lives to bring about deep healing. Thank you, Kent, so much for being in the space. I know that you've shared before on our beautiful forum, and I really look forward to listening to your share this evening. Thank you, Kent.
Thanks, Sonia. And thank you, Janine. Love that music. Thank you, Tristan. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Tristan. Getting out of the city, I did it a couple of years ago. I highly recommend it. It's a way better lifestyle. And thank you, Monet. Yeah, so much of what I'm going to say tonight kind of echoes what Monet is saying, except maybe I'll focus on a few different things. I chose to speak about the shadow self tonight. I truly believe it is a medicine for all times. In 2007, somewhere around there, I discovered this technique of shifting the unconscious patterns, and it's how I tend to help people these days. But I like to empower people. And knowing how to change things in the unconscious mind doesn't really let you know what to change in the unconscious mind. And so that led me down another road of discovery and finding ways of unraveling what's hiding in the shadows so that we can see what needs to be transformed in our lives. I suppose I should start by saying I'm no psychoanalyst, I'm a spiritual healer. My whole approach to healing is through spirituality and through shifting unconscious patterns, like I said. So I might have a few different views to the psychoanalysts, and I certainly have different views to some of the spiritual people that I speak to too. But I'd like to say that maybe I should say that the ego, I mean, in spiritual circles, we tend to think of the ego as something to be annihilated, something to be destroyed, something that is the enemy, not the true self. And while I agree the ego is not the true self, I don't know if we need to destroy it, maybe transcend it. In psychoanalysis, we tend to think of the ego is very important for negotiating this world and negotiating this life. And I do agree, it's our way of assimilating, processing, organizing, planning, and acting in this world. But it's not us. The ego is not us. That's the important part about it. It's something that's a unit, just like the body or our name. It's something that we utilize, something that we are experiencing as the witness, but not us. I don't think it's random either. That I do believe it's part of the soul development. I do see that we've chosen through soul regression. I know that I've chosen my family. I've chosen the particular challenges. I've chosen the particular constructs of the ego to give me the exact lessons that I need in this particular lifetime. All of these teachings of what needs to change in a lifetime are hidden within the ego. We just need to unravel it to see what's going on in the background, to find out what we need to change, what we need to let go of in this life. I think and I come from a spiritual warrior type background. So the art of stalking one's ego has always been part of my approach to spirituality. It's no different to, say, the Holy Crusade or the Holy Jihad, which is to really face the infidel within. And to come to know what's going on over there, it's old simple techniques that we could use. It's just, and this is part of what I want to offer, is just a few techniques and some ideas, and what we can all use in our day-to-day lives to come to know what's going on in the shadow. And trying to let it go, transfigure it, turn it into something better. So what we can really do is you can set an alarm to go off every, say, half an hour, 45 minutes. And as that alarm goes off, you have a piece of paper ready, say 6 or 7 columns written down. Column number 1 will be the time in the day. Column number 2 will be, what am I thinking? So as that alarm goes off, you just write down, what am I thinking in that moment? What thoughts are going through my mind? Is it past, present, or future? The next column would be, what am I feeling in that moment? And the next column would be, what am I doing in that moment? Just one word. Thinking about the argument I had yesterday and feeling fear about the consequences of it while I'm busy driving to work. And the idea of this is to see whether our body, hearts, and mind are in correlation with each other. Are they working together, or are they against each other? Are they one in the future, one in the past? And after just a few days of doing this exercise, you get to see quite a good idea of what's going on in the background of our minds and then emotions. And the next 3 columns would be, life is ... God is ... and the world is ... Just a single word. So life is tragic, God is uncaring, and the world is sad. Or life is disappointing, God is in denying, the world is lacking. Maybe life is antagonistic, God will be vengeful, and the world will be infuriating. Or maybe in a positive space, and life is hopeful, God is inspiring, and the world is a place of opportunity. Or life is meaningful with the wise God. It's all reflections of what's going on within ourselves. The shadow is hidden from view and projected onto the world. So I see, and Carl Jung coined the term shadow self, but it's been alluded to for thousands of years. It's, in my mind, why Jesus said, take the branch out of one's own eye instead of pointing at the speck in one's brother. So what is actually happening out in the world is one thing, but our reaction to it is going through the filters of our subconscious mind. So we tend to think of so-and-so making me angry, but nothing could make us angry unless we have anger within ourselves. So it's the anger within us that's being projected onto the world, not that somebody could actually have make us angry. What we can do, another good technique, another way of looking and finding our shadow, is we project it onto the world, right? So everything's a mirror of where we're at, not what's actually going on. So we can take our emotional charge that we're projecting onto something. Emotions are coming out of our subconscious belief systems. They came out of our ego, right? So an example of this would be the ocean. We have a childhood experience with the ocean. The first time we come to the ocean, we have a great time, a beautiful day, the ocean is nice and calm, get to swim in nice warm water. Our experience of the ocean is beautiful. The rest of our lives, the ocean will be beautiful. We'll have this wonderful relationship with the ocean. We'll be able to play in it for the rest of our days. But if our first experience with the ocean is not like that, our first experience with the ocean is in the southeast, and there's blue wattles, and we end up eating sand, and we have this terrible experience, well, we'll see the ocean as something scary. And for the rest of the days, every time we come to the ocean, we'll have a completely different emotional charge towards it, as if we had a good experience. So our emotions are determined by a perception of what is, not what is actually happening out there. The ocean is just simply the ocean. So what we can do, we take what we're saying about somebody else or somebody else. We say, let's say, the emotional charge we have towards somebody. Trying to give an example. We're driving to work. We're driving to work and somebody cuts in front of us. So we start pointing fingers at that person. You're inconsiderate, so and so, right? But if we had to ask ourselves, we could see us in the same way. If you're in a sad space, the person cutting in front of you is going to affect you in a way, is going to think that the whole day's ruined. If you're in an angry place, you're going to be calling the person an idiot. You're going to teach them a lesson. If you're in a prideful place, you're going to say, how could they do this to me? And so inconsiderate of them. You know, if you're in a fearful place, you won't even hurt. You'll say, people could be dangerous, you could not make a scene. You know, if you're in a neutral place, you're just going to pass the pen and everything's going to go like normal. So the way we project, the way we point our fingers at that other person in the other car is an indication of where we're at, and not anything to do with the other person at all. So if we're pointing at them and we're saying, you're so inconsiderate, so and so, if somebody had to see us in that moment, looking at us, would they not also consider that we were inconsiderate? All we really had to do was take a foot off the accelerator, you know? And we make such a big scene about it, but it's really that simple. So what we can do is we own the thing that we're projecting onto the other person. So surely there's days when we also are driving the car in a terrible way, recklessly, and we're also cutting in front of other people. And we can keep doing this. And who else would see us as driving the car in a terrible way? Who else would see us in the same way that we pointing fingers, doing the same thing in our own lives, on our own time, on a different day? We keep doing this until we can actually accept that we have this behavior too. And as soon as we accept it, already our shadows will be revealed. As soon as we accept that we have this behavior, it starts to dissipate. The next question we can ask ourselves is, when we cut in front of other people, when we're driving recklessly, why are we doing it? What is the reason behind it? What is the goal behind it? We might find we're running late for work, or we might have had an argument with our spouse, we're not concentrating. Any number of reasons why we're doing it. All good reasons. We're innocent. We're innocent, acting on the best behavior, the best that we know in that particular moment. Our understanding and our behaviors are always changing, and we're always learning and growing from our mistakes. So when we do it, we may have a very good reason behind doing it. And just if we do it and we have a good reason behind doing it, we can come to the place of forgiving ourselves. We can forgive the other person for doing it, because we have no idea of the circumstances of their life. We have no idea of what they're going through on that particular day. So the first question we can come to accept ourselves. The second, we realize why we are doing it. We can actually forgive ourselves for doing it, and forgive others for doing it too. Once we've come to the place of forgiveness, we can ask ourselves, is there maybe another approach? Is there maybe another way of getting the same goals and doing the things that we're doing? But without so much resistance from the world, without so much negativity coming back towards us. And with this example, if we had to just leave a little bit earlier in the morning, we get to work and fine. If we just had to take our foot off the accelerator and be a little bit late, it's not the end of the world. If we're having an argument with the spouse, we should sort that out before we leave and get into the car so that we can concentrate on what we're doing. So we can actually come to a space almost of gratitude for that other person, for coming in front of you and cutting you off and making you go through this process so that you can actually see yourself and see your shadow and forgive yourself and choose a new path moving forward. Now, once we let, I suppose another aspect of our shadow is our greatness. We tend to think of the shadow as only that of our negative side that we're trying to suppress or in denial, but we're also in denial of our greatness. You know, if you think about humanity over the last few hundred years, we've pretty much destroyed every single ecosystem on this planet. We've taken animals to extinction. But within us is this greatness that can turn all of that around. We have this ingenuity, this caringness within us that allows us to turn all of that around. Well, to me, that the ego could be divided into two parts, a constructive ego and a destructive ego. Now, a constructive ego is emanating from our essence, from our higher self. It is love-based. It is full. It needs to savor, to share, to give, to uplift, to cooperate with others, to serve others, and to serve the world. This is a very healthy ego. It's an empowering ego. But the destructive ego, that's emanating from our self-importance and our pride, is desire-based. It's empty. It needs to consume, to get, to take, to compete with others. It's completely self-serving. I mean, the self-importance that leads to pride is at the heart of our destructive behavior towards life. And the thing is, all life matters, not only ours. So I see where we are as humanity. I mean, the human species has stopped evolving for a while, or at least it's been on pause in the physical side, but our emotions are still evolving, and our behavior patterns are evolving. We're evolving towards a more benign state, a more efficient way of being in this world, a more effective way of being in this world. It's very clear over the last 100 years as we see so many of our really destructive behaviors start to fall away. This is the shadow work. This is learning and growing from our mistakes. What blocks this? What blocks this constructive ego? What is this destructive ego made up of? And that, to me, is part of the collective shadow of humanity. It's what we need to let go of in the end. And I've certainly built up with mostly pride, fear, anger, desire. These are the behaviors that are blocking the constructive ego. They're the ones that are getting away all the time. And we tend to think of pride as being something to strive for. Let me speak a little bit about shame, actually. At the bottom end of the scale, where we are the most separated, isolated, and divided, where we are the most traumatized, is in the space of shame. It's where we're saying, I am bad. Yeah. It's a complete misidentification with ourselves. Is that true? I am. It's not that I am bad, it's maybe that I've done something bad. Shame and guilt are there to show us that we've taken the wrong turn and we need to turn around and go in a different direction. That's what they're there for. But religion has taught us to punish ourselves again and again and again about a mistake. And in truth, all of evolution evolves through mistakes. All of life is moving in one direction through trial and error. So we're supposed to be learning from our mistakes, not repeating them or beating ourselves up again and again. And that's the nature of guilt. And shame says, I am bad. Guilt says, I've done bad. It's a big step up. It's a recognition that I'm not the behavior. But guilt doesn't get us free. It kind of goes around in a circle saying, I have done bad. I have done bad. It says, I should have done better. I should have done better. Or it gets projected onto somebody else through blame. But they're the guilty ones, but it's all just guilt, it's our guilt. It's been projected outwards. So, I mean, guilt can easily be turned into regret. Regret says that I recognize my mistake. The guilt says, yeah, I recognize my mistake, but there's no escape. Regret says there is a mistake. I could have done better. It opens the door to growth, to change. Regret acknowledges that we all make mistakes. We're all fallible. We're human beings. We're all making mistakes along the way. Once we've accepted And I suppose once we've got in touch with our conscience, we can recognize a mistake and we can move forward and correct ourselves. So we could have done better, and so we do. And we can let go of that shadow of shame and guilt. We can use regret in our conscience to move forward. Another aspect of this shadow that is blocking our constructive ego will be our pride. Yeah. I mean, a lot of fingers have been pointed towards this color skin or our culture, our civilization, masculinity. And it's actually pride that should be pointed to. It's pride that gets in the way. It's pride that goes into denial. It's pride that says it knows everything instead of knowing about something. It's, pride is something that we strive for in our society and in our culture. But what we really need to do is just love what we do. You know, we think we can be proud of our accomplishments, but in truth, we're really only responsible for the effort. It's by the grace of the infinite, it's through our karma that things actually happen. You know, we can take responsibility for the effort, but we can't take responsibility for the result. The pride already has got an opinion. It's my opinion. If it's my opinion, it needs to be defended. It's an opinion. Well, an opinion can change. It's all right to change. We can use enjoyment and love as our drive instead of what we are proud of. Pride seeks approval, right? But the whole universe is supporting your life. So the whole universe approves that you're existing. You don't need approval from somebody else. Pride in our advancement blocks any further development. Pride leads to denial. We should be humble. Humble transcends pride. Humble says, I know what I have become, and I know what I am, and I know that that's going to change through time. So we can recognize our value and our shortcomings. And then pride isn't affecting us anymore. And desire is another aspect of the shadow. And in many spiritual circles, fear is considered to be the opposite of love. There's two base emotions, fear and love. To me, what I'm seeing, it seems that our not want, our not what we don't desire becomes our fear. We don't want this to happen, it becomes our fear. So to me, desire and love are two foundation emotions, and all other emotions are shining out of. And desire is selfish, love is selfless. Desire is an emotion, where love is a feeling. Desire wants to possess, where love wants to share. Desire is empty and love is full. Desire needs to take in and consume, where love is about outpouring and offering and allowing rather than controlling. The loss of desire leads to anger and hate, where the loss of love simply leads to hurt. You know, desire, we think we need desire for drive and direction in this life, but we can use inspiration for our direction. We can use reason for our direction. We can use what we love to do for our direction. We need a desire. We can use devotion to get things done. We think we need desire to give us drive as well. But we can use devotion. We can use resolve. We can use commitment. We can use discipline. We can use devotion. They will all give us the drive to move forward. We don't need desire.
Thank you, Kent. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask that you begin to wrap up, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Um, I think of most of this all gets summed up in a small little rhyme I wrote a few years ago. Okay, something like this. When we step beyond blame, when we step aside from pride, when we look beyond what's vain, when we look deep inside, what's found is sublime, what's found is divine. So Earth's journey is a reflection, and in the mirror we define. The truth is our projection, but this we deny. As we change our expression, we see the mirror change from inside, for we are divine. All that is malign are guiding and teaching us to be a caring kind. By transcending the old behaviors, slowly we are climbing towards a love-based mankind. Yeah, growing from our mistakes awakens a new paradigm, one that's for the betterment of this place, for the betterment of I and I. One where cooperation, grace, and gratitude are underlying the way that we intertwine. I really do believe that it is the destiny of mankind for us to evolve our behaviors towards more benign states. And the shadow is an intimate part of that. Whether we do this consciously or unconsciously through trial and error, the shadow work is truly medicine for all times. I thank you for your time. I hope some of that made sense to you. I know I got very confused along the way. But yeah, thank you very much for your time. And thank you guys for organizing all of this. Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much, Ken, for your sharing, and I think that you have so much wisdom and so much knowledge to bring into the space that yeah, I can feel all of it, and I loved your reflection of selves. I made a note of those 7 points and touching back in with ourselves on a regular basis. I think there's such value in that. So thank you so much for sharing that beautiful formula and how to constantly bring us back into the present. And are we are we meeting a situation, from a place of love, or are we meeting it from a deep rooted inner shadow that we are needing to process and needing to work with? Thank you so much for your beautiful share and for your wisdom and for being in the space tonight. And that pretty much wraps it up. And I just want to, from my side, I just want to honor Janine, Tristan, Monet, and Kent for your beautiful presence and essence and sharing and wisdom and knowledge. And it's really been an incredibly rich evening for me personally, having been here, and I'm sure for all of those that have been listening live and all of those that are going to be listening to the recordings after this. And I just want to give a huge shout out and deep appreciation for Russ, who is the co-creator and actually the incredible brainwave behind the continuation of this Medicine for All Times. Such deep gratitude, brother, for walking this path and for asking me to join you. And Russ is going to be closing the space for us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time for the next Sunday sharing, and it is all going to be about eldership and Indigenous wisdom. So I'm really looking forward to that share in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, everybody, for being present, and I'm going to hand over to Russ, who is going to be closing space for us.
Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Just releasing the center from the space. Giving thanks to beneath, to above, to the north, to the west, the south and the east. Just honoring and releasing the set directions. Aho Mutakoi.